Alright. We can... No! What the hell? No. Guys, I'm stupid. Okay. Okay, yeah. Let's start the reading. Yeah. So we're going to load. We crossed... wait, hold on. We crossed the hall again on our way to the entrance. As we did, we once again spotted that witch's portrait. However, spotted is probably not the best word to describe that experience. It was more like our eyes were inexorably drawn to it. That woman's eyes, with her sage-like glamour, definitely had the power to make those who viewed it stand rooted to the spot. Oh, let me reduce the sound a bit. So this is the witch Beatrice. Wonder if that story's true.
Balor doesn't believe?
Back when he had asked what this picture was, the first person to tell him had been Maria. Therefore, when Balor showed signs of doubt, Maria must have felt that Balor didn't have faith in her. Of course, that wasn't what Balor meant. Maria ran up to the portrait and began banging on the plate hanging below it. And the plate is over there. Sorry, I have to comment on the PS3 art. Maybe the title of the portrait was written there. Maria, trying to prove that she wasn't lying, obstinately continued to hit the plate. Sorry about that. It's not like I doubt anything you said, Maria.
Balor, please!
When he patted Maria's head and apologized, she seemed to accept it, sticking out her chest proudly, oohing. What's this? My beloved witch Beatrice. Behold the sweet fish river. What's with this weird huge epitaph? The plate did have the title of the portrait written on it, but it was much too big to contain only that. Beneath the title was what appeared to be a long epitaph. If you just skimmed over it, several unnerving words would jump out at you. Incredible, isn't it? Grandfather had that made. Pretty deep, huh?
I know. It's the place where the gold's hidden.
Wait. Is that story about the Ushiramiya family's hidden gold? There's another thing I remember from long ago. Hold on. Aniki, is this for real? Grandfather had this made, but he never said anything about this picture or the epitaph. Even so, amongst the family, it's often whispered it indicates the location of grandfather's hidden gold, and that he will relinquish the inheritance and the gold to the person who solves the riddle.
I heard that too! Lots and lots of gold!
Well, something like that. Something like 10 metric tons of gold bars? I think it's fake, though. Still, when you read about an epitaph like this, it almost seems real. I think I already explained grandfather's upbringing. But let me also mention the Ushiramiya family's legend of the gold. Grandfather succeeded the Ushiramiya family after it was destroyed in the Great Kanto earthquake, and by successfully riding the stormy seas after the war, he managed to accumulate great wealth. That much of the story everyone knows. However, this is the place where the strange part begins. Part of it involves grandfather's black magic obsession, so its credibility is extremely low, but, well, wait till the end before you doubt or make fun of it. After the war, grandfather correctly predicted what the future would hold and won a huge gamble, accumulating a vast store of wealth. But there's a mysterious legend about how he gained his initial funding. Grandfather came from the Branch family and had no connections to the business world or financial world. Even though he later built connections with the occupying forces, he supposedly started as a nameless person who hadn't yet gained anyone's trust. It takes trust to gather money. There's no way anyone would lend money to someone they didn't trust. How did grandfather, who had no reputation at all, manage to obtain his first vast chunk of funds? When asked that question, grandfather supposedly answered like this. On a certain day, I encountered the golden witch Beatrice. Grandfather then went on and on about his continued research into alchemy and techniques for summoning demons in order to become a great magician. And the entity summoned as a result of the demon calling ceremony was the golden witch Beatrice. He then apparently made a contract by which he would receive honor and fortune in exchange for his own soul. The witch then granted Grandfather 10 tons of gold. Grandfather used this gold as collateral to prepare a vast quantity of funds, which he then used to multiply his wealth many times over and revive the Ushiromiya family. It seems this story is so old that even our parents were told it when they were still children. So back when our parents were young, we explored this island in all sorts of ways, believing the gold Grandfather had received from the witch might be hidden somewhere. However, since there was a danger of them getting lost in the abandoned forests, Grandmother began to spread the story the witch lived in the forest and approaching it was forbidden. I remember that old story when we were little. We also went all over the island to search for the treasure after our parents told us about it. Did we get lost in the forest once and started crying until some of the servants found us? Our parents got so mad. Dang, that takes me back. We sure were idiots, weren't we? After all, Grandfather only brought this island after using those funds to get rich, right? That means he must have bought the gold before coming here. There's no way this gold's on the island. That's not necessarily so. Maybe the gold was hidden on the island from the beginning, and he bought the whole island just to ensure that it would be his and his alone. There was a whole 10 metric tons of it, right? It seems more realistic he tried to secure the place where it was hidden rather than try to move it at all. Oh, I'm sorry, that was my mouth. This epitaph was made 2 years ago, and since Grandfather wrote it himself... Yeah, it does feel like the legend of the gold seemed more believable. The so-called witch's gold that revived the Ushiromiya family weighed 10 tons. Maybe that's what's sleeping somewhere ready to be turned over to whoever can solve the Grandfather's riddle, and that's why he did it? I guess that sounds like Grandfather's style or something. If it's true, that's pretty incredible. The epitaph carved into the plate was very mysterious, with something like a poem or a song written on it. That text was incredibly disturbing, filled with the signs of Grandfather's black magic hobby, and its contents were truly in bad taste. But it could definitely be viewed as a puzzle, which, if solved, might lead to the hidden gold. Whether that's what he intended or not, I can't even imagine what his true motive might have been. All we know for sure is that Grandfather put this shady epitaph here so that everyone in the family could see it. We also know he's hinted at the existence of the gold without ever talking about where it might be hidden, at least so far. These facts were embellished by the imaginations of our parents, who were convinced Grandfather was challenging us to a battle of wits. So that's just like my dad, so greedy that he takes something like this so seriously. He may laugh at Grandfather's black magic obsession, but he'd still believe the story about the hidden gold. It just sounds so good. Well, it's certainly not a realistic story. At the time when Grandfather was still nameless and had no connections, there's no way anyone would just lend him a massive quantity of gold bars for free. If such a person actually did exist, it's not unthinkable that Grandfather would call such a sponsor a witch. Yeah, but it's 10 tons. 10 tons! If you cash that in, how much would it come to? I mean, it'd have to be a ridiculous amount, right? It certainly would be a ridiculous amount. They say that the total amount of gold mined by humankind since the dawn of history is 100,000 metric tons at most. That 1/10,000th of all the gold humankind has obtained throughout the history should belong to just one person is just insane. On top of that, this witch supposedly had all that gold collected in one place and was able to lend it to Grandfather just like that. We're not talking about any ordinary person. Well, to me that 10 tons number seems pretty fishy. After all, no one's actually ever seen it except Grandfather, right? Even if we assume that some generous witch existed and lent him some gold, maybe it was closer to 10 kilograms than 10 tons. Even 10 kilograms would be a pretty incredible sum, right?
10 kilograms of gold is how much?
Maria, who wasn't following the story and felt like she was being spoken to in riddles, finally found a place where she could ask us a question. It was a question I also wanted to answer right then. Whether it was 10 kilograms or 10 tons, still felt like a huge amount. I had no idea exactly how huge. George folded his arms and tried to remember the market price of gold. Oh yeah, notice how all the characters all have black eyes, but Maria's eyes are dark blue. Like they are a shade of blue, like compared to everybody else who has been presented with black eyes. There's actually a reason, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say there's something about it. That's it. Okay? So, well, even if the value of gold is affected by the market, and the value of physical gold can change depending on its purity and the trustworthiness of the foundry, you also need to pay handling fees to cash it in. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's a precious metal. Some people estimate that humanity will mine all the world's gold within half a century if gold mining continues at its current rate. Just guessing haphazardly, I think you could expect a price about 2 million yen per kilogram. Whoa! Just now I randomly said 10 kilograms since it sounded smaller, but even that would be worth 20 million yen, wouldn't it?
Huh? I weigh 28 kilograms.
Which means that if we had Maria's weight in gold, we could estimate its worth at over 50 million yen. That's just unbelievable! How much would 10 tons be then? 10 kilograms is 20 million yen when you multiply it by 1,000, so, huh? 20 billion yen? What the hell? How much is 20 billion yen actually worth? We can only measure it relative to our own pocketbooks. Anyway, let's say that a person's wages over a lifetime are about 200 million yen. You grow up, work like crazy, sacrificing your life for your company, and you're finally free as you approach old age. Everything, including your retirement money, might add up about to 200 million yen. In other words, that's the amount of money that will be made throughout a human's lifetime. No, you could even call it a value of a life. So 100 times that sum is an unbelievable amount of money. If you work from age 20 to age 60, that's 40 years of work. So it's equal to 4,000 years of work wages. If you worked every day starting from the Jomon period, you'd only reach that number about now.
Is 20 billion yen a lot?
Heck yeah, it's a lot! Maria, you love shortcake, right? You can buy more shortcake than you possibly eat for the rest of your life. However, that might be possible with 20 billion yen in cash. I don't think it would be very realistic to have that much in gold bars all in one place. Just as I said, gold is extremely heavy, so it isn't exactly convenient as a method of storing wealth. Sure, you could imagine someone gathering their fortune together as incredibly high-value stocks or precious gems. You often hear of people who traded their wealth for precious gems so that they could carry it around with them during the chaotic times of the war. But you don't usually hear stories of people exchanging their wealth for gold. It may be heavy, but most of the trusted and stable form of wealth internationally, so maybe that was important? For example, bonds are just scraps of paper if the whole country goes under. You can also look at it that way, but even one 10-kilogram ingot is pretty heavy to carry around. Haven't you heard? A 50-kilogram person can't carry a 50-kilogram bag over his shoulder. With that many gold bars, the amount of labor and risk for one person would be hard to calculate. So what you're saying is, while it'd be one thing if you had a stack of banknotes worth 20 billion yen, 20 billion yen in gold would be such a huge mountain that it'd be kind of pointless. That's right. Although the legend of the gold does have a pretty interesting ring to it, just the part about the 10 tons of gold makes it pretty much impossible. If you think about it logically like that, it obviously sounds fake. Kind of brings you down back to reality. Anyway, that's grandfather for you. Maybe he exaggerated the story of how some kind of wealthy person gave him a loan saying he got 10 tons of gold from a witch. Even the number 10 tons feels pretty symbolic. You mean like his gratitude for the money he borrowed was worth 10 tons of gold or something? Maybe some rich man's leisured wife generously granted it to grandfather, and maybe he started calling this person a witch. I see. Jessica's example isn't bad. Someone who generously lent a huge sum of money to grandfather when he still had no reputation might as well be called a witch. Furthermore, grandfather actually did use that money to build a vast amount of wealth later on. The fact that this person was so great at judging people might also justify calling her a witch. Also, since she went to the trouble of lending all that money, she might have enthusiastically overseen how it was spent. The decision to unexpectedly get involved with the occupying forces and profit during the Korean War demands might have been inspired by the witch herself. That might explain why he exclaimed they received both wealth and honor from her. I see. So, in other words, this witch lent Grandfather the funds necessary to revive the Ushirimiya family, and he owed her big time. And then he felt so grateful he had a huge painting drawn and displayed. Yeah, it's not a crazy story. It's even possible this person was an old granny who looked like a witch. Maybe Grandpa idolized her, and that's why he had her drawn to look so beautiful. I bet if we ever did meet this person, she wouldn't be nearly this pretty. That's possible. The name Beatrice sounds pretty Western, so if you think about how everyone in our families have Western names, maybe even the name Beatrice is a result of father or grandfather trying to rearrange some Japanese person's name to make it sound Western. I get it. That means this pretty girl doesn't exist outside this picture. Guess that means I won't be able to rub those elegant breasts. In the first place, isn't having a witch pretty bizarre by itself? Like, you could find something like that anywhere on Earth. I laughed and made fun of the witch, trying to distinguish myself from the kid I was 6 years ago who feared the witch of the forest. Then Maria tugged at my sleeve. I could tell by how hard she pulled she was a bit upset. What is it, Maria?
Beatrice exists!
Maria stared up at me. She had only her usual sour look, but I could tell she was angry by the color of her eyes.
Witches exist! Witches exist!
Well, sure, they do exist if you turn the TV on and watch anime or something.
Exist! Witches exist!
I started getting impatient, not knowing why Maria was jumping on me like this. Then Maria tapped me on the shoulder and whispered, "Dumbass, you're smashing a kid's dream! Maria really believes things like witches and Beatrice exists!" Come to think of it, Maria, in social studies at your school, when you were asked to write what you wanted to be when you grew up, you had a witch, didn't you? Maria nodded seriously. Tears started to run from the corners of her eyes. I see. To a girl who wants to become a witch in the future, the existence of Beatrice was proof that witches do exist in this world, and was therefore an image she yearned after and admired.
Exist! Exist! Witches exist! But Valor still doesn't believe!
It's okay, witches do exist. I believe it. George kneeled down and hugged Maria's head. Watching this, Jessica poked my side. So that's what it is. It's like shouting that Santa Claus doesn't exist in front of a child who believes him on Christmas Eve. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to shatter kids' dreams. Okay, I remember when... Okay, I love Maria, okay? Maria's like... I kin her. Anyway. I mean, I wasn't, like, into, like, witch stuff, but I was into other stuff. I was more, like, into Chinese wuxia. But here, also when I was 5, I didn't know what Santa Claus was because I'm Chinese, okay? So, like, I didn't have an initial belief. I don't know, I'm just gonna insert that, I don't care. Anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make fun of your dream, so I apologize. Beatrice does exist. Even now, she's living in the forest and comes to the mansion every night to peek in and see what everyone's doing. So you shouldn't go into the forest. At night, you mustn't stare into the dark forest. You might be seen by the witch of the forest, Beatrice. After all, grandmother said so.
Really? Adler really believes?
Yep, I believe. Sorry for doubting it. Come on, let's make up. I stuck out my hand and Maria grabbed it with her tiny hand and we made up. Maria didn't grumble any more than that, so George and Jessica were relieved. I don't care what anyone says about Maria. I'm going to defend her! Okay, so anyway. Oh, so this is where all of you were. I was sure you just left to go to the beach. I mean, when I was young, I don't remember people humoring me, so I would just hide everything about myself later on as I got older. Because, yeah. Anyway. Shannon, carrying a basket, was surprised to find us all gathered up in front of the portrait. Shannon! Well, this is the first time Balor has seen Beatrice's portrait. He was just fascinated by it. That's right. It certainly is fascinating. Beatrice is truly beautiful. I'm sure that she captivated the master. In addition to the patron theory, there's also a theory that she was grandfather's first love. Either way, although it's been several decades since he met her, even now she holds a special place in his heart, which meant that he's still captivated by her. Sheesh! That must have made grandmother pretty jealous, huh? I'm not really sure, but that might actually be true. Apparently, grandmother believed he was cheating on her with some blonde.
Huh? Good smell! Good smell coming from Shannon!
Maria, sniffing, approached the basket Shannon was holding with interest. After hearing that, I noticed a fragrant smell with a touch of vanilla. I apologize. I was told by Kumasawa to bring them to everyone. What is it, I wonder? Oh, excellent! Cookies!
Ah! Wanna eat cookies! Wanna eat cookies! Ah!
Please eat as much as you would like, but, would it be appropriate to serve cookies in a place like this in front of the portrait? Shannon sent us a glance that seemed to ask what we wanted to do about it. Well, yeah, I guess eating here would be bad manners, generally speaking. Maria, why don't we eat someplace else? Let's put the cookies in a bento and have a picnic.
Ah! Have a picnic! Have a picnic! If we can eat cookies, let's go!
Yeah, let's go eat some fresh air. Let's go eat some fresh air. Great. Oh, God help, I'm stupid. Okay, so anyway, yeah, let's go get some fresh air. We shouldn't stuff ourselves right in front of the witch. That's right. Didn't we say we wanted to go down to the beach in the first place? Let's go, let's go. Shannon, sorry, but could I ask you to get us a blanket and sit on a flask of tea?
Right, certainly.
Shannon received her instructions and gracefully bowed before retracing her steps. We headed to the beach on our own. Everyone headed for the entrance in the group, feeling as though that witch was staring down at our backs. I turned around once more.
Ugh. Battler, you still don't believe?
Nope, I believe. It'd be much cooler that way. The golden witch Beatrice gave Grandpa 10 tons of gold. And that gold might be sleeping around here somewhere. Besides, didn't Grandfather write that strange epitaph of those challenging us to find it if we can? I'd say that kind of adventurous story's way better. 20 billion yen worth of gold, huh? Even if we split it up between the four of us, that's still a ridiculous amount of money. 5 billion yen for each of us. Incredible. With that kind of money, you could practically make any sort of business prosper. In fact, we could live our whole lives fabulously without working at all. I wish I could do that. I just want to work on my art and read Higurashi and Umineko. Like, everything is just bullshit. I mean, people should let themselves do what they want. But it's too bad. Too bad we live in a stupid society run by idiots. Anyway.
Ah! Ah! I don't want 5 billion yen! I want cookies! Cookies!
Maria would take cookies over money. Still, 5 billion yen, that's like a dream! Give me a bit of time. Okay. Now let's start. Ridiculous. Is it possible you all truly believe in Father's legend of the gold? Of course we don't believe in that story about a witch giving him gold, but there's no mistake about the gold itself. The fact that Father obtained gold bars from an unknown source has been confirmed in several ways. We've heard that before the president of the Maruso Company died, Father showed him a large pile of gold somewhere. Father used that man's claim as proof that there were 10 tons worth. That's just the nonsense. It's a senile old man. Along with Father, he was just fabricating a story. You can't take it seriously. If that gold didn't exist, he wouldn't have been able to gather so much funding. Before the president died, he was a person with such a sincere personality, he earned the respect of many in the business world. He wouldn't have become a partner to such a fraud. Aniki, the president of Maruso, definitely saw it. 10 tons of it, clearly with his own eyes. Even more, Dad let the president take one ingot at random and have it examined. The results of the examination showed the 10-kilogram ingot was 99.99% pure. He said the Ushirimiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, was imprinted on it. Almost instantly, the Ushirimiya legend of the gold spread among the fixers of the business world. Gold from an unknown foundry has a poor way of conversion into money. Thinking that it was a chance for decisive profits, they accepted it as collateral, and as a result, Father was able to receive massive loans. Is there no limit of the absurdity you're willing to accept? How old are you people? Are you still taking that nursery tale you heard as children seriously? Where is the proof this 10 tons of gold even exists? Aren't you just parroting the lies of Father and a few close to them? Of course it's just a story, but still, Aniki. The amount of money Dad raised required a suitable amount of collateral. Even if the gold itself was just a rumor, it's an undoubtable fact that he showed them a treasure of comparable worth. It was just an illusion of money created by our penniless father. He acted as though he actually had gold that exists, fooling his sponsors. It was probably the gamble of a lifetime. Luckily, his use of those funds proved successful. If the Korean War demands hadn't come, the Ushirimiya family had not been restored, Father would have probably been hounded after as the crook of the century. So you're saying the gold never existed and Father made it all up? Of course! And because of that, the illusion of the gold became a mere inconvenience once he achieved enough success. That's why later on Father added all that about the witch and black magic, weakening the credibility of the entire story. In other words, he revealed that the illusion of the gold was a fabrication. If he claimed to have received gold from a witch, no one would believe that it existed at all, right? It's also possible he said it for all your sakes. Nevertheless, here comes some stupid offspring wanting to divide up this non-existent gold along with the rest of the inheritance. Rosa, don't tell me that even you believe in a fabrication like this. I can't prove whether or not Father really had the gold. I just want to claim my rightful share as one of Father's 4 children. Huh. It seems that you even started to talk that way, Rosa. I see. So that's what you're all getting at. You're trying to claim that I'm attempting to keep all the gold for myself. Nissan, you've gathered a massive supply of funds. That's a fact. If we rule out the possibility that you've been embezzling Father's personal funds, there's only one possibility left, right? Aniki, we've all been thinking that you might have found those 10 tons of gold bars. Ridiculous! Such a thing never existed in the first place. Then explain yourself. Was it embezzlement of Father's assets or Father's hidden gold? How could you have gathered so much funding if not by one of these methods? Even I have many friends in political and financial realms. I have earned their cooperation, nothing more. And on that matter, I have no responsibility to explain myself to you. You understand, don't you? There are some topics that ought not to be spoken of. If you insist on that point, that's all well and good for now, but Aniki, Dad doesn't have long. Nobody can ensure that he'll live to see this day next year. The inheritance process will begin the instant of Dad's death. We'll arrange for lawyers and accountants who are impartial to all of us and have them inspect Dad's financial situation. At that time, it becomes the light that you've unjustly interfered with Father's money. You understand, right? I don't have a clue what you're talking about. You're starting to make me feel as indignant as my wife was. Of course, Father's gold is part of Father's fortune. We understand its money can't reveal openly, but the 4 siblings should have had an equal right to it. In other words, we're going to have your financial situation investigated as well as Dad's to determine whether you're hoarding the gold or not. Isn't this a great opportunity? Right now, prove the existence of your so-called support from friends and acquaintances. That way we can sportingly apologize for foolishly doubting you. Right, Rosa? That's right! Kraus, you're the only one who's dodging the issue. If you were guiltless, you could just prove that you were in the right, but you aren't even trying to do so. However, Aniki, we still have to consider your position here. As Dad's representative, you're probably bearing a larger share of the burden than we are. We've been living terribly relaxed lives until now, so it wouldn't be fair for the rest of us to complain without taking your efforts into account. Huh. It seems you cannot make up your mind whether to flatter me or slander me. Please get to the point. Basically, randomly investigating nitpicky aspects of Father's wealth seems like a pretty crude way to go about it. As you said, Kraus, there may have been movements of money that are difficult to explain. We've come to consult with you today while fully aware of that point. Both sides stand to gain from talking about this now. A consultation? Oh. When the inheritance is divided, you'll be rewarded for your years of hard work taking care of Dad by an agreement that's generous in your favor. Don't misunderstand us, Nissan. We aren't saying that we'll abandon our rights, but when we make our claim for what we deserve, we might as well offer a generous understanding for your position. That's what we mean. In other words, if you accept our conditions, then when the inheritance is divided, we'll leave the investigation of Father's financial situation to you, Kraus. All the siblings from Ava downward suspected that Kraus was trying to steal their father's wealth. So letting Kraus report the state of wealth was extremely contradictory, and a huge concession. As if they claimed Kraus was actually embezzling the money, Kraus would be able to hide that fact. Besides, which would be impossible for him to control the distribution of the inheritance in a manner favorable of himself. Kraus, realizing this sounded too good to be true, couldn't help but feel suspicious. He couldn't help but worry about what they'd ask for in exchange. Oh, after mistrusting me completely, you now say that you're willing to restore your confidence in me as the eldest sibling? So, what is it you want in return? Just what we deserve as siblings. You aren't the kind of person who'd steal Dad's property, but you also aren't being financed by some patron. Considering all that, there is a certain explanation that satisfies the rest of us. Nisa, you found 10 tons of gold and used that as collateral to gather some funding. Yes, just like Father did in the past, right? If that's the case, there won't be any funny business in Father's finances. You've always been a good son looking after Father. Why would we mistrust a person like that? You're being so roundabout, I can barely understand you. Please speak in clearer, more practical terms. Our first condition. Aniki, you must admit that you found Dad's gold. Are you asking me to admit I possess gold that doesn't exist? Our second condition. You'll acknowledge that each sibling has a right to share of the gold, and you will pay out those shares. How foolish. With a non-existent 20 billion yen of gold, that would be 5 billion yen per person. Are you telling me to pay a total of 15 billion yen? Ridiculous! Keep listening till the end. We know that much money can't just pop out of nowhere. We're not asking you to make an impossible deal. Of course, regarding the portions of the gold, we plan to reward you plenty for your hard work until now. Our third condition. The portion of the gold to the one bearing the title of successor to the Ushirimiya family head will be given 50%. The remainder will be considered the fair share for the siblings and divided up. Of course, this also includes you, Kraus. Of the 20 billion, 12.5 billion will go to Aniki. 2.5 billion will go to Ava. 2.5 billion will go to me. And 2.5 will go to Rosa. That division scheme makes me so grateful I could cry. So you're saying for the sake of the gold that doesn't exist, I must pay you 7.5 billion yen. What's wrong? Nissan, your share is 5 times the size of ours. These are such good terms, I'd be jumping for joy. Our fourth condition. The gold will be liquidated and distributed along with the inheritance at the time of Father's death. However, as a deposit, 10% of our portions are paid to us promptly. These payments must be made before March of next year. What do you think, Kraus? This is an ideal chance for you to restore the trust regarding your handling of Father's assets, isn't it? Of course, it might be impossible to get a whole 7.5 billion yen before Father dies. But it should be possible for you to manage a deposit of 750 million, right? Paying 700 million in half a year might sound like a pain, but you should be able to manage it with all of your friends in the political and business spheres. Normally, we hope to receive the 7.5 billion right now all at once, but out of concern for you, we'll show our sincerity by asking only for 10% of that whole time being. The remaining 90% can wait until the inheritance is distributed. See? Even you'd be capable of managing a mere 10% to show your sincerity. So you're trying to sell me the right to assess father's financial situation for 750 million yen. How impressive! You all certainly have grown. To think that I am now one being offered deals. Nissan, if you accept these terms, the rest of us siblings will leave the investigation of father's assets to you. However, the results of that investigation will be subject to scrutiny. It's only natural, right? We'd be so sad if you managed things so that our 7.5 billion share shrank. We'll avoid complaining as a general rule, just to make sure you do it neat and tidy. As long as you don't try anything that's blatantly obvious. We got no intention of stirring things up. We want to inherit it quickly too. We don't want to get all drawn out and left hanging. If a complaint is made, who would carry out the following investigation?
We don't mind if it's you. This is probably the first and last chance for us siblings to reach a consensus. I believe it won't come to that.
Looks like you can speak up now, and then Rosa. By this point, it's obvious that Kraus was entrusted as the oldest sibling, so there was no need to go into detail. The former tyrannical oldest brother had always abused his privileges and violated the other siblings' shares. It was a response to this that the other three, now adults, were finally teaming up and striking back for the first time. Sorry, but there's more. Our fifth condition. This decision must take precedence over father's will. Later on, we don't want some will to appear and make this decision completely irrelevant. I see that you're very cautious. Then let me ask if the gold really were found. What would you do? Since you'll be making payments to us for what the gold's worth, the rest of us, really, don't care if we ever see the gold or not. You can think of our share as an advance payment. It's good to have dreams, isn't it? You plan to turn this island into a resort, right? You might stumble upon the gold by chance during construction.
Ava let out a high-pitched laugh. Kraus watched, but didn't even flinch.
Let me add a seventh condition before I accept. In a situation that any other sibling other than myself finds the gold, they will immediately turn it over to me. Yes, of course. We'll hold on to it for you.
It was a play on words. Of course, the others who were forcing Kraus to pay money for some non-existent gold wouldn't save Kraus's fortune if they actually found it. From the beginning, this deal had been nothing more than a threat directed at Kraus. Regardless of the actual facts, it was still extremely likely that Kraus was embezzling his father's assets. When Kinzo faced death at last and had his inheritance distributed, some unpleasant facts would surely come to light that could easily become fatal to Kraus. The others had spotted this weak point and were threatening their brother under the veil of compromise, trying to wring a huge sum of money out of him. However, they'd forgotten one thing. They'd forgotten that their brother's brain moved so swiftly, at least when it came to be cunning and guile. They'd be forced to band together to combat him. While Ava couldn't stop smiling, sure of her victory, Kraus let out a gloating laugh to show how relaxed he was. This all makes for such a touching story. My estrangement from you all has left a deep pain in my heart. If accepting these conditions means we siblings can become friends again, it would please me to no end. I'd be happy to agree to your deal. Rejoice, Rosa. We've reached an understanding. Rosa's expression dimmed. It was never a good sign when her brother started talking like this. Ava also keenly picked up on this. That's why she was unable to wipe away a sense of unease, even though Kraus had obediently accepted the deal. My, how obedient of you. It's not like you at all, Nissan. What a cruel thing to say. Are you implying I have some ulterior motive? Of course I don't. I'm just the same as all of you.
Just the same as all of you. He seemed to emphasize just that one part. The color of Rudolph's face darkened. To him, it sounded as though Kraus was saying, I have a plan similar to yours. So Rudolph panicked. He rushed to bring his nearly resolved discussion to a conclusion.
Then we're good. So, Aniki, would you mind signing here? This is a written contract summarizing this discussion we've just been having. There's one for each of us. Everyone will sign for the same contents.
Rudolph took 4 written contracts out of his breast pocket that had the details of their deal written on them.
The 7th condition you propose will, of course, be added right now. Don't worry about that. Aniki, need a pen?
Rudolph took a fountain pen out of his breast pocket and offered it to Kraus. Kraus as if made to accept it, but then with a small laugh, he drew back his hand without taking it and spoke.
Actually, in order to ensure this agreement is properly executed, I'd like to propose an amendment on just one point.
As soon as Kraus said that single sentence, all the siblings felt as though something ominous was creeping up their backs at the same time.
That won't do. We've already decided, haven't we? Just stay quiet and sign it. Why are you in such a hurry, Ava? Of course I'll sign. I promise a share of the gold is going to all of you will be 7.5 billion yen. I also promise that when father's inheritance is distributed, I will cleanly and neatly liquidate it. However, there is one point that I simply must insist that you compromise on. What are you talking about? What don't you like? The part about promptly paying 10% of your share, 750 million yen. As you pointed out, my financial situation is far from prosperous. While I can guarantee I will collect on various future investments, I must admit that I am quite poor at the present moment. In short, I have absolutely no money that I can move around right now. I am incompetent and my business sense is dull. Since I am a loser you all claim me to be, I don't have the power to move 750 million yen in just a half of a year. That can't be true. Are you trying to deceive us with such a half-baked trick? At the time of the division of the inheritance, I will liquidate everything at once. Remove the condition that I must pay you 10% in advance. That is the only condition under which I am willing to sign. Kraus, that 10% is nothing more than a number to measure your sincerity, isn't it? All the things being equal, you shouldn't have any room to negotiate at all. We're doing you a huge favor by offering to let things slide for just 10% of your faith money. Now that we explained that, you're rejecting our offer would seriously damage our trust and relationship, right?
Hideyoshi had a humble expression on his face and was rubbing his hands together. But his eyes weren't calm at all. Kraus had already seen through the shadow in the depths of those eyes.
Why are you all in such a rush? Or could it be that you're afraid of something? Rosa, won't you tell me alone? Secretly, so the rest of the siblings can't hear?
It's not as though I...
Quit it, Aniki. All we're asking is whether you're gonna sign or not. Just forget about making any strange deals or any other suspicious moves. Huh. You say I have no room to negotiate. Are you trying to claim that I am in a weak position, which therefore puts us in an unequal relationship?
Shivers began to crawl up Rudolph's back. He began to feel himself getting overwhelmed by the height of his brother's completely insurmountable wall, and the long shadow that existed since they were children.
Shouldn't deals be made between those on equal footings? From my perspective, this deal will help restore our long-lost trust of my younger siblings and deepen the love between us. It's an old problem that's been eating at me, and one I would prefer to resolve as soon as possible. I would be overjoyed if we could resolve it today. However, it seems I'm not the only one who'd be quite glad to close this deal quickly, am I wrong?
Kraus stared at each of his siblings. They avoided his gaze with animal-like instinct. Only Hideyoshi was slow in avoiding it, so he was caught by Kraus's gaze.
Hideyoshi, I hear your company has been doing extremely well lately. At a brisk pace it went public, and both its track record and its stock prices have soared. I am truly jealous. We aren't here to talk about my husband. However, it is unfortunate that you've neglected your stockholders. It's even more unfortunate that you were unable to solidify your base when you became stock listed. Before you realized that some bad-natured colleagues of yours had brought up a huge share of your company's stock, right? How could you know about that? The same way you knew about me. If it's possible to collect evidence proving that no one would offer a loan to me, it's possible for me to collect evidence on you. Is it really so unexpected as that? Kraus grinned broadly. In contrast, Hideyoshi's face was rapidly turning pale. Hideyoshi's company was a restaurant chain management company that he started from nothing. Thanks to Hideyoshi's management efforts, the company has achieved success repeatedly expanding its range, and a petition to make it stock-listed company had recently succeeded. The greatest advantage of being in a stockholding system is that you can sell stock certificates and gain a large amount of financing. That amount tends to be far greater than a business' normal profits, so this is an extremely effective way to gather massive funds to expand a business even further. However, in exchange for financing the company, the stockholders gain certain rights. They're given rights that allow them to observe and guide the company they're invested in, leading to profits even greater than their original investments. This right is guaranteed to the stockholders, and they sometimes use it to dismiss ineffectual management. That right allows them to keep an eye on management and prevent the money they invested in the company from going to waste. However, if they use it forcibly, they can eject the former management and take over the company. After all, dismissing management and nominating new management are powers held by the general body of all shareholders. That power is determined by a majority decision of the shareholders, and people who hold more stock get to cast more votes. In other words, if someone or group holds a majority of the stock, they can freely chase out some old management and make the president anyone they like. If they want, it's also possible for them to make themselves the president. Most companies take various defensive measures to stop malicious people from buying up their stock and threatening their position, like ensuring that lots of stock is bought by those close to them, such as company employees. However, Hideyoshi's company had only recently become stock listed. He hadn't had time to strengthen those defensive measures. Or maybe Hideyoshi was so engrossed in the management of his company, he couldn't properly understand the dangers of being stock listed. It's hard to say whether he should be viewed as a kind-hearted manager immersed in the work of management, or a foolish manager who had his feet swept out from under him. In other words, there existed some people who wouldn't let him get away with that naivety unscathed. They began repeatedly buying up stock in Hideyoshi's company, rapidly gaining such strength they couldn't be ignored. They then sent anonymous documents to the shareholders in an attempt to gain control of a majority. The documents read, "The current management continues to make pointless investments and is ignoring the needs of the stockholders. Let us force the current management to retire and cut the current wasted investments, and let the company be born again as one that gives more to the stockholders." It's very difficult to make the actual state of a company's management known. The fruits of Hideyoshi's sleepless nights and constant concern for his company were cruelly distorted. He lost the trust of his stockholders. Thanks to these efforts, this group had almost collected a majority of the company's stock. At that point, even Hideyoshi noticed and started to buy back the stock, but stockholders realized that the company was undergoing an acquisition removal, and each demanded a ridiculous price for the shares that Hideyoshi was trying to buy back. They continually tortured Hideyoshi, who had no leeway or negotiation of the price. One of the certainties of capitalism is the price will rise when two parties vie for the same thing, and one of the certainties of democracy is that the majority controls everything. So in the end, whoever manages to buy up the most stock wins. Put it another way, whoever has the most money wins. Unless Hideyoshi could obtain a large sum of money at this critical time, he could easily lose all he had built so far. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. He couldn't wait for the division of Kinzo's inheritance, as no one knew when he would die. And you, Rudolph, have been in quite a lot of trouble lately too, haven't you? You always hear people say it's terrifying overseas, but it seems it really is true. American trials are settled quite emotionally. They never hand down generous judgments to foreigners. Weren't you advised by your lawyer that making a settlement with the other party would be more economical in the long run? What's this all about? Well, it's just some trouble from work. No big deal. Nothing you can't sell with money.
Kiri immediately guessed the meaning behind the subtle expression on Rudolph's face. Her husband had gotten wrapped up in some kind of trouble without her knowledge, and had been worrying about it alone.
That's right. In this world, anything can be sold with money. After all, it can even buy back the bonds that are broken between siblings. America is very fussy about the violation of rights, but with money, anything can be sold. Long live capitalism. Though rumor has it that the settlement money could be high as several $1,000,000.
Capitalism, ho. Wait, I don't remember who. I remember this one Racketeer or Reciteer, I don't know. I did not. I liked the game, but I couldn't stand the main girl's voice. Like, I hated that. I freaking hated that. I'm sorry. Okay, I had to interject because I can't stand their arguing. I don't like it. So anyway, but it's important, so let's go through it. Rudolph had been building a large amount of wealth with a certain type of niche industry. However, a niche is a niche. It definitely wasn't a business exposed to the light of day. An American corporate giant was trying to accuse Rudolph's company of violating their rights. For various reasons, it was thought that victory for Rudolph in this trial would be extremely unlikely, and he was being forced in an all-out surrender. But even so, there was a way for this to be resolved with money. If he could just pay that money, it might still be painful, but he'd be able to pick himself back up. But if he didn't pay, he'd lose everything. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now.
Rosa, you're a good and noble little sister. You wouldn't get yourself involved in that dangerous money game. However, your soft-hearted nature has brought you trouble, hasn't it? In my opinion, becoming a co-signer for anything isn't something one should enter into lightly.
That's none of your business, Kraus! Rosa uncharacteristically laid bare her emotions and yelled. After all, no one was supposed to know that. As Kraus watched, he slipped a muffled laugh. Without exception, every one of them, more than anything else, wanted a lot of money right now. In other words, the situation had been reversed. After all, the person the younger siblings were threatening was the only one who had no urgent need for a large sum of money. The other three, however, wanted a lot of money quickly, no matter the cost. In other words, the longer it took to establish this deal, the better position Kraus would be in. Kraus was extremely sly. He had known of their Achilles' heel from the beginning. Even so, he had not been certain. Therefore, he had hidden his knowledge until the very end, striking back only after analyzing their attitudes. If it were possible, I would like nothing more than to raise some money for my adorable little siblings in their time of need. But unfortunately, I have nothing on hand. If you know of any sponsors that might be able to raise a whole $750 million, I suggest you try there first. Kraus's elated words were so obviously detached from what he actually felt. The other siblings could do nothing more than listen, grinding their teeth. If they could think of a sponsor that convenient, they wouldn't have kept up this charade. They had entered this huge battle specifically because they exhausted all other options. However, if you do insist on relying on your big brother, I wouldn't mind using my influence to help you find such a sponsor. Oh, wait! I do believe you said that I have no influence. Well, then I'm afraid I won't be much help to you. Kraus's low, glowing laugh began to fill the parlor. The younger siblings who'd been driving the oldest brother into a corner until a moment ago could do nothing more than grimace and grind their teeth. Ava! Don't make me laugh! As if I've ever put myself in your debt! Don't make me laugh! Don't make me laugh! If we relied on you, how exactly would you help us? I told you, didn't I? All I can do is find other sponsors for you. Of course, I will negotiate for the highest interest rate possible. Damn you! Taking advantage of us. Honey, please calm down. I am calm. I'm extremely cool. You
bastard! Kiri grabbed her husband's hand, but that action made him feel even more pitiful, so Rudolph shook it off. Kraus laughed as though watching something highly amusing. In times like these, it certainly would be nice to find Father's hidden gold. If you did, you could split it up into 2.5 billion yen portions right now. How sad. How sad. How very sad. How extremely, totally, truly, hopelessly sad. Tonight, let us all drink together as we solve the riddle of Beatrice's epitaph and discover the location of Father's hidden gold. If we 4 friendly siblings work together, there is surely no puzzle we can't solve. Uh-oh. What an entertaining scheme! Well then, what are the conditions they've attached? Well, whether or not Kraus actually discovers the gold, he'll pay Ava, Rudolph, and Rosa a total of 7.5 billion yen for their shares. However, 10% of that will be paid before March. Kraus, you dunce! To think that he would have his feet swept out from under him by his younger siblings. How truly amusing. But it sounds as though they tripped when going in for the kill, yes. Yes, Kraus exposed the fact that Ava and the younger siblings all have urgent need to get money. Is there even any need to expose such obvious facts? That irresolute, incompetent man! What are they doing right now? That conversation has been put out on hold for the time being. Now Beatrice's epitaph is being discussed. So they're trying to solve the riddle and find out where my gold is hidden. Yes. Kinzo set down his spectacles and snorted. Will the miracle be fulfilled first, or will those fools expose the gold first? What a show this will be! At the very moment those fools solve my puzzle, I will suffer utter defeat. They can suck my corpse down to the last fragment of bone. The greed of fools can allow great magic to bring forth a miracle. And yet, if the fulfillment of the miracle comes first, if it comes first, Beatrice will be resurrected again! The smile I've been chasing half my life will be restored! Oh! Beatrice! Soon will come the sacred night where we shall bet upon a miracle, and a game of demons shall begin! I will surely prove triumphant and survive! I will let you have the lives of all the others! I don't need wealth or honor or assets or gold or anything! All I want is to see your smile one last time! Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. Kennen got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo motioned for him to stop. Do you know why I went to the trouble of exposing the hidden location of the gold in a place where everyone can see? No. It is because magical power is determined by risk. If the number of people who try to discover Beatrice's gold is great, and the danger of them succeeding is great as well, the power of magic will bring about a grand miracle if we succeed despite the odds. In other words, magic is a game. It is not the case that the one who performs the best becomes the victor. The victor performs the best because he's been granted magic. Do you see? It is similar to how miracles of life can be granted only after winning against the divine odds of several 100 million to 1. Is this a little difficult for you? My apologies. That's fine. It all comes down to this. I will give all that I have built up to the one who solves the mystery of Beatrice's epitaph. Wealth, honor, gold, and the inheritance of the Ushiramiya family. Everything that I have established. My children certainly aren't the only ones with the right to attempt to solve this riddle. Anyone who solves the riddle will have the right to gain everything. Even you! Yes. However, I couldn't possibly understand such a difficult riddle. Of course! I made it difficult, but you must try to solve it as well. that will form the seed that summons the miracle of my magic. If everyone attempts it and everyone fails, that will be that. However, if the miracles come together and give birth to magical power, it will happen. Beatrice will revive. That is why you must attempt it too. Everyone must attempt it. And in doing so, they will give strength to my magic. Do you understand?
Yes, I will try.
For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and clutching at his head. Kanon stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo eventually realized this. Very well, leave me. There is a bag of sweets on the liquor cabinet. You can take some with you as a reward.
I'm fine. After all, I am furniture.
So furniture doesn't eat sweets. Well, I suppose it stands to reason. In that case, leave me.
Yes, excuse me.
Kanon bowed and left the study. As the door closed, a heavy locking noise sounded out. But it was not the sound of Kanon locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to seal himself up in his own study and isolate himself from the outside world. Oh hey, I'm doing that. Just kidding. No. He was already unable to trust anyone, excepting not the children who shared his blood, but those servants who called themselves furniture. By the way, I don't think the riddle can be solved in English. It could actually, I think it's better to, I think it can only be solved in the original language. So you have to know Japanese. I believe that's what most people say about the riddle. And I didn't even know how to solve the riddle. Okay? And I mean, first, I'm not a Japanese speaker. Okay? I can't even read, like, Chinese or Japanese that well. So whatever. So I'm basically pretty much illiterate. I know some of those, but not enough to solve the riddle, okay? And like it requires other things. I don't know, man. So, yeah. Anyway,
Nanjo, how are you feeling?
Ah, Genji. Oh, it's just that there's no place for me anymore. With a bitter laugh, Nanjo turned to face the door to the parlor. That look was apparently enough to tell Genji that Nanjo wanted to say. For the most part, Genji also understood the family's situation. It must have made him want to frown knowing that right now in the lounge, the master he served was being discussed so disrespectfully. But it would have been very difficult to gather that from his indifferent expression. Still, I don't understand. Why did Kinzo have something so provocative written, I wonder? Nanjo looked at the portrait of Beatrice. No, he actually directed his gaze beneath the portrait, at the plate with the epitaph. The PS3 failed.
I do not presume to understand the master's thoughts. However, I'm sure he had a deep reason for doing so.
Since long ago when Kinzo played chess, he would always prepare his moves according to some far-reaching judgment. Yes, sometimes, even to make moves I couldn't understand. For an average person like me, it was impossible to see through to whatever he was planning.
Sometimes I wonder if this might be some kind of will in the master's eyes. Perhaps he wishes to hand over his wealth and title to the one who can understand it.
So you're thinking he may have wanted the four siblings to work together and solve the riddle, before some outsider like myself solved it? Kinzo may speak of his children in insulting terms, but perhaps he also wants them to prepare their relationship. I doubt it. All he thinks about is how incompetent his kids are. It would certainly be heartwarming if, as Nanjo suggested, this epitaph had been made to repair the siblings' relationship. Kidding me? Bitch is a shit dad. Only cares about himself and Beatrice and stuff. Almost said something I shouldn't have. However, Both Nanjo and Genji knew that nothing could be more impossible than this. They'd known Kinzo longer than anyone, and Kinzo trusted them more than his own relatives. But even they could not guess at his true motives.
The master always says that everyone has the right to try and solve the riddle, even if they aren't a member of his family. What about you, Dr. Nanjo?
No, it's a little too difficult for a puzzle for this senile old man. Actually, I once wrote this epitaph down in a notebook. Night after night I would try to solve it before going to sleep. But, it really is hard. It looks like we might have some free time to relax and consider it before someone comes to get us. What do you say, Genji?
I'm nothing more than furniture in service to the master. Golden assets are unnecessary to me.
My, you're very modest. I imagine that's why Kinzo trusts you so much.
If so, I am honored.
As Nanjo lightly laughed in response, he once again looked at the epitaph. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the golden lamp follow its path downstream in search of the key. The epitaph in the portrait called My Beloved Witch Beatrice goes as follows. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the golden land follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore of the two we'll tell you of. There sleeps the key to the golden land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the golden land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the ninth twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. On the 10th twilight, at the journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once, and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the Golden Land. One shall be the resurrection of all dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. One shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice. Yeah, it's not possible. I don't think it's possible to solve it in English. I don't know. Okay. I mean, I've heard people. It's better solved in the original because like wordplay and all that stuff. Like Chinese characters in like the way that it's used because it's part of the alphabet borrowed in Japanese characters. You can read them in multiple different ways. So, yeah. That's a pretty sound. Any tips? Yep. The portrait epitaph. See? Anyway, we're done for tonight. Good night. Bye-bye.